right, welcome back, everyone. So this week we're going to launch something new and different. I think I'm going to call it a guitar hang with 12-foot chain, and we're going to get a chance to hang out with fellow guitar geeks and whoever's out there making some noise one way or another. This episode is going to be with a local touring and session guitar player and YouTuber, and we're going to cover a lot of ground. We'll talk about what got him into guitar, how he became a working musician here in Nashville, how he became friends with star session player Tom Bukovac, and he'll be forced to answer the dreaded question, if you only had one. All right, so let's check out his playing for a sec, then we'll come on back and have a chat and get to know him. You here now to a young cat named Justin Myers.
What's up?
Justin, how you be?
Good, man. Thank you so much for having me, man. I really appreciate this. This is awesome.
Yeah. No, of course. Yeah. Thanks for your time.
Oh, of course.
So listen, I would love to be able to share more with our viewers here. Why don't you just bring us up to speed? Like, how did you start playing guitar? Bring us all the way current to what got you to Nashville, and tell us a little bit about what you're doing on YouTube.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, it's been a long journey for sure, but, I got started when I was like 9, 10 years old. And, my dad raised me on rock and roll and Zeppelin and Van Halen, and just hearing that electric guitar, I just completely fell in love, and I just was like, that's what I want to do. And, so I started practicing, started really developing quickly as a player. And I'm mainly self-taught, but I did take some lessons when I was first starting off. And what would happen with all of my teachers, honestly, was that I started progressing so quickly that a lot of the teachers were like, man, there's only so much that I can teach you, and you've kind of already hit this level where I can't really teach you anymore. So I really just started playing in bands, even since I was a little kid. I would do like my little local county fair, and just would get together with friends and just would jam in my parents' basement, as a little kid, and cranking up the Marshall, and, drums just loud as all hell downstairs. And they were just so supportive, though, of my music, and just really wanted me to do well with it. And, I moved to Nashville pretty much right out of high school. I was about 19 years old, and I'm now 28, so I've been here about a decade now at this point. I've just been all over the place. I've toured all over, and I've played for probably 100+ different artists now at this point. But when I first moved to Nashville, I didn't know anybody, and I just moved here. I didn't go to college or anything here. I didn't know anybody. So I just am totally street with all of this stuff. I taught myself all of this about the music business and how to be a professional guitar player, and just, like I say, really just taught myself. I just learned on the street, literally.
So you've landed in Nashville. You're 19 years old. Tell us about one of your first breaks in the business and how that happened.
My first experience here in Nashville was I'm really into collecting guitars, which you're well aware of by viewing my channel. And for those out there that haven't seen my channel, I love vintage guitars, and I love collecting all this stuff. But anyway, so I've been collecting for a long time, and what had happened was I had found this guitar pedal, and it was a Rico signed Fulltone OCD, which was like it's a pretty sought after OCD, and I wanted to have a drive pedal. So I called the guy up, and I was just like, hey, man, would you mind if we met somewhere and I could just demo it out really quick just to make sure it was all working? And he was like, yeah, that's no problem at all. So I just met him up at Guitar Center here in Nashville on Berry Hill and plugged it up real quick. And he obviously had heard me play because I was playing through it to make sure it was working. So anyways, he calls me up, and, it turned out that he was the direct support artist for Hunter Hayes at that time, and that's how I really got started as a touring musician. And it's just kind of funny how that worked out and how that all happened. But you know, I started getting gigs. I started the dominoes kind of started falling over. I started meeting a lot more musicians, and ever since, I mean, since I first moved to Nashville, that happened when I was like brand new to town. I mean, maybe a month into town, and I started getting gigs, and ever since then, I've been a working musician. So.
So that was interesting. So your first sort of introduction maybe into like the, the more professional live scene was you going to a guy's place to test out an OCD pedal.
Yeah,
And he's just hearing you like he's heard 1,000 other people, but he's hearing you playing and he's like, you got something.
Yeah.
And that was your in.
Yeah. That's totally it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that really was an in, and whatever you got to do to get in there, that's whatever it takes, and that was the thing for me. Like, I wasn't in college and I didn't know anybody at this time. And I just remember we played at Virginia Tech at their amphitheater, and I was like 19, something like this. And I was a young guy and totally green, but I could always learn the songs. Ever since I was a kid, I was saying earlier that I developed really quickly as a guitar player. I always had an ear for it. I could always hear like, oh, I really like what that guitar player is doing or what that singer is doing. And I would kind of pick apart these little things that really influenced me as a player. And I was like, oh, I kind of like that. And, I've got influences of probably 100 plus, or who knows? I mean, thousands of different artists, or I don't even know what number, but I'm just influenced by so many different things and different styles of music. It's just endless. I'll always hear somebody do something maybe a little bit differently. And then I'm like, oh, I really like that. And I'll pick that apart and figure it out and make it my own.
So one of the first videos I saw that brought me to your channel was like many of us, like we follow Tom Bukovac, Uncle Larry.
Yeah.
And so he's on my feed, right? And so I'm sort of watching him often. But I saw this video where you and he were sort of not dueling Firebirds, but like you were each playing Firebirds and you were trading it out and adjusting pickups. And I, there may have been a couple of those or whatever, but I was like, wow, super cool. He seems like a super cool guy anyway. But I'd love to hear how did that all happen? And are you guys on sessions together? And like, what's your relationship with Uncle Larry like?
Sure. Yeah. So we've known each other a really long time. But so we go way back, but basically how it happened with the Firebird thing was that, I just happened to be in the Berry Hill area of Tennessee here, which is where the Guitar Center is. And, I was just like, you know what? I'll stop into Guitar Center and, just see if there's anything new and cool, just like anybody else. Right. So I go in there and I see the original owner trying to sell this guitar to Guitar Center. And I couldn't believe it. I mean, it had the original case. I mean, all the strings, like, I don't know how old those strings have been. It must have been 30, 40 years old, something like this. I mean, those strings had not been changed in a very, very long time. And so the story with this guitar was that this lady was selling it and it was her husband's, and the husband bought it off of his cousin that bought it brand new in 64. But they had bought that guitar in 1970 off of his cousin, and it sat under a bed inside the case since 1970 up until I had just gotten it just recently. And then we did a video together. Yeah. So it was incredible. And she took it to Guitar Center of all places, which is just wild because, I mean, nothing against Guitar Center, but I mean, you've got Gruen Guitars, you've got Carter Vintage, all these amazing stores here. So it just really took me by surprise. But it's a 64 Firebird 5. And it is 100% original. And as soon as I played it, I was just like, oh my God, I have to have this thing. And so, as I was saying, that guitar had been sitting under a bed since 1970. So it needed some love. It needed some work. And the whole time I was doing this deal for the guitar, I was texting with Tom. And I was like, man, what do you think about Firebird 5s? And I didn't actually realize that he loves those. I mean, that's like one of his main instruments that he uses. So he was telling me that he's just in love with those and this and that. And he was like, man, you definitely got to get that for sure. So I was like, all right, well, I got it. And I brought it over to his place. And we just randomly made that video. It was totally spontaneous. I literally just threw my iPhone up and thought it would be really cool where people could get something cool out of it, and they could hear the differences. So the story with it is that the stock Firebird pots are valued at 500K. Now, Tom likes to modify his Firebirds to 250K. So by changing the value of these pots, which are the pots that you roll the guitar volume on with and whatnot, and the tone and stuff, you can change those out to 250K and it'll change the overall tone of the guitar. So with the 250K, it makes it much darker, whereas the 500K makes it much brighter. So stock with those guitars, it came 500K pots. So it's a much brighter tone. So basically the whole video was just a shootout of that. And then also Tom set it all up. So, I mean, man, we were taking bottles of contact cleaner and, cleaning out the pots and, cleaning all the fretboard and just going through the entire guitar. Cause like I say, it literally had been under a bed since 1970 in the case, untouched.
That is so cool. I can't believe that.
Yeah, so it's just wild.
How did you get introduced to Tom?
Yeah, the way that Tom and I met, to answer your original question with this too, was when I was brand new to Nashville. Again, another story, brand new in Nashville. And again, I was always on the hunt looking for used gear and vintage instruments and stuff. And back in the day here in Nashville, he used to have a shop called Second Gear, which was also in the Berry Hill area. And it was right off East Iris Drive. And I was brand new to town, man. I needed a job. I didn't know anybody and I needed to find some work. So I happened to be in there one day and I was looking for some gear and just kind of seeing what he had. And I mean, I remember that store had all kinds of cool stuff, man. I mean, 59 Junior, double cut, special, I mean, all kinds of different stuff that I remember just jonesing over and I wanted so bad, but I didn't have the money for it. But anyways, so I happened to be in there one day and Tom was behind the counter and I actually had no idea who he was. I didn't know anything about him or anything. And so, but like I said, I happened to be there and he was talking with somebody and I happened to overhear him say, he's like, man, like we're looking for somebody's for, like just for some help or around shop. And he's like, man, honestly, we're looking for some punk ass kid to come through here and, work for cheap and, we could bring him on and he could help us out around here, And so once the guy left,
you're like raising your hand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, literally. So as soon as he left, I was like, man, I was 19 years old at the time. I didn't know anybody. And I said, hey, man, how about me? And yeah, so then literally we just hit it off. And Tom and I are both from a similar area. Now, Tom is from Cleveland. I'm originally from the suburbs of Chicago, but then grew up and lived and finished out school in Columbus, Ohio. So I moved there later on. And then so we just really hit it off, like we were both from a similar area. We have a very similar sense of humor and just a very sarcastic, joking kind of thing. So we just really clicked. We really hit it off. So he was like, man, come in tomorrow, man, you're hired, Yeah, it was just a really crazy experience. I mean, it was wild, man. And I remember being a 19-year-old kid. I mean, God, we would get everybody coming through there. I mean, we had Joe Bonamassa, we had Brad Whitford, Willie Weeks. I mean, all the session players. I mean, literally the who's who of Nashville was coming in there. And I was 19 years old. I mean, I was a punk kid. Wow. And it was just an amazing experience. And then, the place ended up going out of business and I had to jump ship. But at that point, I had already started touring and doing my thing. But
yeah, so I discovered your channel through my feed there, and I have my own story of what why I got into it. But I am always interested in how other folks that are doing this, what their story is, like what really inspired you to go from the working musician that you are, live in studio and whatnot, to like saying I'm going to try out this YouTube platform, and what actually motivated you, and what are you trying to do with it?
So really what really inspired me was, I started seeing a lot more musicians doing the YouTube thing. And not only just that, but honestly, I had done a run. This was last year. And I did 3 nights in Cincinnati, Ohio. And it was just an amazing trip and an amazing run. And what I kept thinking about was, man, if people witnessed this and saw this like in a video format, they would just love this. I mean, it would just be amazing. You know, they would think that I'm just this ultimate rock star guy, you know? And it was just so fun and so enjoyable. And, you know, the thing is, like I had mentioned earlier on, was that, you know, being really diverse as a musician and having your fingers into multiple different things, that was really a huge part of it as well. Because the big problem with being a working musician is that you are a contractor, right? So once the gig is up or the tour is up, then you're back again to figuring out how you're going to make your living, right? Back to a new gig, which, like I say, for me, I've always been fortunate that I've always had more gigs to go to after the tour came to an end or whatever, right? Whether that was here in town or out on the road or whatever. But it is just one of those things that as a hired on musician, you're a hired gun per se, right? So it's just like
Sure.
whenever that artist needs you, they call you. And if they don't need you, then they don't call you, obviously, right? So you're not making any
Right.
money, right? And
Right.
so that thing, like I was saying with YouTube, and really what inspired me to get into it as well, was just to have multiple things happening for when I'm not out on the road, and to also establish my own brand. That's also another thing that I really wanted to get more serious about, because myself, for the future, I mean, I have all kinds of different plans that I want to do. I mean, I want to release my own music and you know, be able to do my own thing and be able to market all kinds of different things from an educational standpoint. And I love helping people out and becoming a better musician, a better guitar player. And I personally feel what makes my channel really stand out from everybody else is that I'm actually a real pro musician. It really brings a lot of credibility to what it is that I'm talking about, because I've actually been there and I've actually done that. And so that's really what my masterclass is all about on my website. It's all about teaching folks the ins and the outs of the music business. They can literally ask me anything that they want. It's literally its own private feed where you can see videos, you can do posts, you can write messages. I mean, there's live streams, there's so much stuff you can do. And it's just an amazing resource. So it's very affordable for everybody too. I didn't want to, like, you know, go crazy price wise on anybody. You know, I just wanted it to be very affordable for everybody to enjoy it and, you know, become a part of it. So that's really kind
Yeah.
of just my future plan, is to just, you know, keep building up the YouTube channel, keep building up the masterclass, and, you know, just keep doing my thing as a touring musician, as a working musician. So
No, that's great. And I see over your shoulder is it jkmguitar.com? Is that your
that's
site?
it. Yep. jkmguitar.com. Yep. That's it.
All right. Well, everybody watching this after this video, I want you to go to jkmguitar.com, check out what Justin has to offer, which is a lot. And it's, like he said, it's right straight from the horse's mouth. All right, Justin. So I'm going to put you on the spot here. So I know this is sacrilegious to us guitar lovers, but I'm going to ask the question. You ready?
Yeah.
Do you know what question's coming?
What you got? Come on.
The question is, if you only had one, if you could only have one guitar and one amp,
Ooh.
and your answer cannot be it depends.
Oh,
So
damn.
if you only had one guitar and one amp that you needed to try and make your living on, or for fun, what would they be?
Oh man, that's really hard to say. I'll answer the amp first. I would say definitely a 100-watt plexi panel Marshall.
Ooh,
Either
tell
a
me
super
why.
lead or a super bass. Either one
Tell me
would be
why.
fine with me. You know, that amp you can really take in any direction. You know, you could clean up with the guitar volume knob, and that's how I learned how to play guitar, because I grew up playing more of a Marshall style kind of amp, and it was only a single channel amp is all I had. So I taught myself that, you know, you just use the guitar volume knob to clean up whenever, you know, and just in
Right.
general, when I'm playing live or whatever it is I'm doing professionally, I'm always listening to the singer, and I try to be really dynamic in my guitar playing. So maybe on the verse, I'll back the guitar volume down to, you know, 7 or something like this. But then on the chorus, I'll open it up to 10. So you get the most amount of gain. And it really does make a huge difference in a mix, you know, and just being that dynamic. And what I love so much about those plexi amps is that they are so dynamic. They respond so well to the guitar volume knob, and you can really clean them up or you can really dirty them up. And it's just amazing. You know, I just love that amp so much. I mean, you can really take that amp in any direction that you want. So
I agree. So I support you in that. And I think what a lot of people, I haven't owned a 100 watt. I've played on a few. I haven't owned one yet,
okay,
but I think
yeah,
what a lot of people don't know about those is because you think, Marshall, whether it's a 50 watt or 100, you're always like, you want the gain and you want all the just the great dirt that will give you. But the clean
yeah.
sound on those Marshalls is
Oh,
unbelievable.
oh, it's incredible.
Unbelievable. On a
Yeah,
single, especially a single coil, a Strat, it's
totally.
unreal.
Yeah, I mean, it's really every bit as good of a Fender. You know, you can get just real sparkly and just it sounds great, especially on like a bass spec Plexi. You know, you can really get that clean to just it sounds amazing for sure.
So you want your 100 watt Plexi, either super lead or super bass. Is there that much?
Yeah,
Do you think there's that much difference between the two of those, by the way?
you know, circuit wise, I know that there's not very much difference, but having owned, I have a 50 watt bass spec, and then I have this behind me here is a 50 watt. It's a lead spec Plexi
Hmm.
panel. It's a 60. And comparing the two of them, they are different. You know, they are different. I mean, the bass spec it reminds me a lot more of like kind of a basement style thing where I would use it with like pedals or something like this, and it stays
Hmm.
clean for so long. I mean, even with it being 50 watts, it really stays clean. Whereas the super lead, I mean, it just breaks up with 50 watts. You know, you're not going to get very much on
Oh,
the volume before it already
right,
starts giving you that Plexi super lead thing. But the
right.
100 watt, I have a 100 watt super lead 68 as well. And that does stay clean for longer, of course, because it's 100 watts. But once you get that 100 watt on six, man, I mean, it's punishing. It is loud, but
Yeah.
man, it sounds damn good.
I
So,
agree. Okay, so I
yeah.
support you in your decision of the Plexi being your single amp. So now let's
Cool.
talk about your
Thank you.
guitar. You have one guitar to plug into that
Oh,
that Marshall. What is
man,
it?
that is so hard to say. Oh man. I mean, off the top of my head, like I'm debating between saying either a Les Paul or an SG. And honestly,
Okay,
more recently, given my status now as a player and my experience and stuff, I honestly probably say an SG. Honestly, I probably would say an SG over a
interesting.
Les Paul. Just because you know I love Les Paul so much, they sound great and they're so good for tone. You know, you got to have a Les Paul in the collection. But
Yeah.
I love with an SG, you get this kind of mid-rangey push, and this it's a lighter weight guitar, and the way that that guitar sits in a mix is just awesome. I mean, over a Les
Mm.
Paul, where a Les Paul you get this real fat, boomy thing, which is cool, and it sounds great. It's great for tone, as I say, but an SG is just man, it's just awesome. That with Lexi, just straight in, man. I mean, it's just rock and roll. I mean, it's good enough for Angus
I
Young. So
I fully
good enough for
support
me.
both of those decisions. I am totally in the SG camp too. I don't know if that's my one or not, but
Okay.
prob- I don't know. I'm close. I'm close on that. I
How
love.
about you?
Yeah,
Put you
I'm
on
with
the
you.
spot.
Oh, how dare you? How dare you?
Tables have turned.
Man. Yeah, that's a really good question.
Man, it's so
That's
hard.
that's the words, by the way, that's the words that people say when they say, I don't know my answer yet and I need to think about it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say some words, and the words I'm going to say are, that's a very good question.
Okay.
Um,
Fair
no,
enough.
I'm going to go with, uh, barely, barely. I'm going to go with the Les Paul over the SG, even though
Okay.
I'm so swimming in SG ness in my life.
Yeah.
I got this guy. I've got a 68 special over there, but
Wow. Cool.
I've got an R8, that red R8 Les Paul,
That's
and
cool.
there's something special about it. Um,
Yeah.
I don't have the I don't I'm not a professional musician, so I don't have the needs of like, um, necessarily where something is going to be in a recording session where it's going to sit in the mix. So it's just
Right.
what sounds great to me when I'm playing live or in my studio here, and just the range of tones that gives me, I'm so in love with right now. But you ask me the same
That's
question
cool.
next month, and it's going to
Yeah.
be the SG. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Man.
Interesting that neither of us picked a Tele, by the way.
Yeah.
That's what a lot of people pick, and I it's sort of like, depending on when you ask me, I would have said a Tele about 4 months ago, probably, because I was in
Sure.
love with that.
Yeah. That's how it goes, man. As a guitar player,
Yeah,
you're always changing up. Like, oh man, you get inspired with this instrument or this tone or this instrument, whatever it is. I mean, it just happens, man. It's totally normal
yeah,
for guitar players. It's a journey for sure, never ending.
yeah. I think, and to round out my answer, I think on an amp, oh man, I want to say it's between that Blonde Bassman and that 50-watt Marshall over there. So I'll go with you on the Marshall, because I want that fat gain if I want it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, hell yeah, totally.
I want what the Marshall will serve up.
Yeah,
But
that's awesome,
okay.
man.
So we're both Gibson and the Marshall, at least right now in February of 2024.
Right, as of today, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Justin, I wanted to thank you so much for your time today. I was so delighted to see the channel. I love what you're putting out there. I would love for my audience to go out and check out your channel and check out your site and what you have to offer. But I just wanted to say, thanks for giving part of your Friday afternoon to us. And I hope to talk to you again soon.
Man, that's awesome, man. Seriously, I can't thank you enough for this, man. I really appreciate all the time. And man, this is a blast to be here. So thank you so much for having me. Well, we definitely got to do this again soon.
Sure. Hopefully we get you some clicks.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was Justin Myers. Go check out his site at jkmguitar.com. Go subscribe to his channel at Justin Myers Guitarist for all of his content and all he's got to offer. Thanks for the guitar hang today. If this is the kind of thing you like and you haven't done so already, I invite you to jump down and click subscribe right now and ring the bell. The bell will let you know when I drop new content, which I do every single week. Let me know in the comments what you thought about this. And until next week, take care, everybody.